A very good evening all. I'm Aditi Lamba with the Thursday night edition of South Asian News, Vision of Asia. We are coming to you from our studio in New York City. Welcome to the show. Let's begin the episode taking a look at the coronavirus pandemic and its impact. The world has surpassed 133 million cases of COVID-19 with nearly 3 million deaths. Here in the United States, we are at more than 559,000 COVID-19 deaths and nearly 31 million cases. Today, the CDC said that a highly infectious variant of the coronavirus first discovered in the UK has now become the most common source of new infections in the country. This is happening while officials all across are warning of a possible fourth surge of coronavirus even if the vaccination program is ramping up. So again, as we continue to vaccinate most of the nation, please remember to wash your hands, maintain social distance, and wear a mask. Meanwhile, in politics, President Biden today announced a set of executive actions on gun control, which includes new investments in intervention programs in violence-prone communities. The president has also called on the Congress to take steps on gun reform in the wake of last month's shootings. These shootings have also sparked a call to end racism and anti-Asian hate. On this and COVID-19 updates, we have tonight leaders, doctors, and a glimpse of Indian-American culture. Here are the headlines. Too early to put guards down, COVID-19 updates, Dr. Aarti Agarwal. Asian American Federation unveils Hope Against Hate campaign featuring Deputy Director Ju Han, New York City. Disney Junior's Mira Royal Detective presents Holi-Themed episode Festival of Colors. A lot more on the... Well, it's time for a short break right now on Vision of Asia South Asian News segment. We'll be right back. And welcome back. I am Aditi Lama and this is Vision of Asia, Thursday night episode of South Asian News. Let's now take a look at coronavirus updates and measures. As states lift COVID-19 restrictions and worrisome coronavirus variants spread all across, health experts are now extremely concerned about a fourth surge of the coronavirus infections, even as the nation's vaccination campaign picks up speed. The upper Midwest and the Northeast have already started seeing an uptick in new infections and hospitalizations. Nearly half of these new infections are in New York, Michigan, Florida, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. On vaccines, more than 225 million vaccine doses have been distributed in the country, and about 171 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine have been administered. On this, CDC Director Dr. Walensky said that the virus still has a hold on us and that we need to remain vigilant while we continue to accelerate vaccination efforts all across. So again, this is not the time to let our guards down. On this, earlier today we spoke with epidemiologist Dr. Aarti Agarwal. Here is Dr. Agarwal. While we are trying to ramp up the vaccine program and we're seeing more and more vaccinations, going to increase across the country, we're also seeing variants that are spreading all across the country as well of the coronavirus, which is concerning experts. So right now in the race between getting everybody vaccinated versus the variants that are spreading all across, who is winning currently?
I wouldn't declare a winner right now, but I would say that it's a very tight race. But the bottom line is that I think the U.S. is doing a great job at increasing vaccine supply and distribution, especially since most states are now expanding vaccine eligibility to all adults. I think we should really keep our focus on getting everyone vaccinated and keep monitoring for variants. But there's very little that we can do to control the variants at this time. So I think we should really keep our focus on trying to get all eligible adults vaccinated right now.
Right. And Dr. Agarwal, experts are also worried about a potential surge of COVID-19 due to these variants and loosening of some restrictions in some states. What are your comments?
So another surge is always a possibility, depending on what's going on. But with more and more people getting vaccinated, I do think that the people with severe disease is going to go down. We may have to increase restrictions depending on what happens. But, because of all the tools that we have at our disposal at this time, I think that we are, in pretty good shape to not have to go into a full lockdown like we did in the first wave.
Right. So that fear is a little less because a lot of European nations have gone under lockdown. What are the chances that New York City could be under lockdown again?
Again, I don't think that we'll have to go into a full lockdown as previous, but I think that we may have to go back to increasing some of the restrictions. A lot of the restrictions have been loosened at this point as far as opening gyms and indoor dining, and obviously, where high school students are going back to school and all of those types of things. So we may have to backtrack on some of those, but I really don't anticipate that we would have to go into the full lockdown like we did in the spring of last year.
Well, that's very, good to hear coming from a doctor. When you're looking at this surge, Dr. Agarwal, experts are also saying, and they've been saying that young people are kind of responsible for this current surge. We talked about the spring breakers as well. What are your comments on this? How are you looking at it? Is it the young people that are causing this current surge?
It does appear that it's the young people, and it makes sense that it would be because they're the ones that have not yet had the opportunity to get vaccinated, like older people have. So the vaccination has really only come available to them in the last week or two. So it does make sense that they would be the ones that are causing, the latest surge. Also, I think that the spring holiday, spring break travel and all of those things are also contributing.
Right. And these variants, doctor, there's one from the UK, one from Brazil, South Africa, and then there's one from New York. What could you give us, a little bit more information on this? And how dangerous are these variants looking for you?
So we don't have complete information about all of these variants at this time. We do think that, these variants are definitely here in the United States. So they're present and they are more transmissible than some of the other variants. The original, coronavirus that we had. So the question is there going to be decreased vaccine efficacy against these variants? And, how virulent are they? Are they more virulent and are they more transmissible? So I think those are really the main concerns around these variants. But all viruses mutate, and so this is not an unexpected development. But it just depends on how dangerous these variants are.
So the three vaccines that we have going on from Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and Pfizer, are they effective against some of the variants, if not all?
So I think that they are effective. It's the degree of efficacy that's the question. So I think that they all should have some degree of efficacy. It just depends on, how effective. I think that we have seen that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a little bit less effective against the South African variant. So I think that we do have concerns that, all of the vaccines may be less effective against the South African variant.
And you just mentioned Johnson & Johnson, and my next question is actually about it. Doctor, we are seeing people concerned about the fact that it's just a single dose, COVID-19 vaccine with an efficacy which is a lot lower in comparison to Pfizer and Moderna. How do we raise more awareness about this in the community? And, how are you looking at Johnson & Johnson? Is it as effective against the coronavirus as the other two?
So it's not as effective. The efficacy is around 66%. But, I think that because the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines were so incredibly effective, our expectations now are a little bit misaligned. So usually for vaccines, we think that, over 50% efficacy is actually pretty good for them. And so the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is certainly meets, that criteria and is above that threshold. I also think that because the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, did some of its clinical trials in South Africa, and that variant was present there, I think that the efficacy numbers overall were a little bit lower for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. But I would encourage people to get it. I think that the fact that it is only one dose is terrific because there's much less coordination that is needed. And you should be, fully vaccinated, after a few weeks of receiving that vaccine. So I would encourage people to get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And it's always good to have more tools, available to us to fight the COVID virus.
Basically, we have to just get whichever vaccine we can get and, get inoculated. I think the point is to really get everybody, safe from this virus. Another vaccine that's been in the news, Dr. Agarwal, is the Astrozeneca vaccine. There have been cases of these rare blood clots that a lot of experts are worried about, and many countries have actually halted the use of the Astrozeneca vaccine. Do you think it'll get approved in the U.S.?
I'm not sure. I think that that the U.S. will require some more data before approving the AstraZeneca vaccine. I think that there's conflicting data about whether these blood clots are truly related to the vaccine. So I do think that we need more studies to determine that. I think the U.S. may be a bit slower in approving this vaccine. Because we already have 3 vaccines that are available and are effective in our population. So I don't think there's any rush in approving a 4th vaccine.
Right, and in fact, Dr. Anthony Fauci, who's the leading person on coronavirus in the country, has actually said that we may not necessarily even need a 4th vaccine because there's enough supply now of the other 3 vaccines. So hopefully that goes into it. Another vaccine question I have for you concerns the children, Dr. Agarwal. How are you looking at these vaccine trials that are happening in children? And when you're looking at them, how important is it for us to get that group vaccinated to reach herd immunity?
So I think it's very important to get children vaccinated to reach herd immunity. The vaccine trials are going on in children currently. And so hopefully we will have approval for the children to be vaccinated, perhaps, as early as the summer.
This month has been full of Holi, Festival of Colors celebrations all across the country, where Indian Americans are welcoming spring and are bringing together the spirit of India and its cultural heritage here. On this, the Festival of Colors, Disney Junior's animated series Mira, Royal Detective, presented a special Holi Festival of Colors episode. A proud representation of Indian culture, the animated series follows the brave and resourceful Mira, who has been appointed to the role of royal detective by the Queen, and showcases Indian heritage, arts, and customs in a fun, interactive manner. The special episode on Holi was advised by the series cultural consultant and consulting producer Shagorika Ghosh Perkins, in which Mira follows colorful cues in order to save the town's only Holi festival. Here's a segment of the special episode featuring a song titled Let the Colors Fly.
Is it time? Not yet, Dimple. Hey guys, are you ready for Holi? Hey Mira, almost there. Kamla, Mira's here. Can we play now? Dimple, we have to finish filling all the balloons. Remember? This is your first time playing the balloon game, isn't it, Dimple? Yeah, I'm gonna play! Mira, how do you play? Our team fills balloons with purple-colored water, and the other team fills balloons with green water. We throw our balloons at each other, and anyone who gets hit is...
out! The green team is going down!
As a member of the green team, I disagree.
Yay! I can't wait! Kamla, are the balloons ready? Not since the last 5 times you asked, Dimple. Dimple, want to come with me while you finish eating? We need to bring this bucket to the green team. Oh, yes! I can help! That roti roll looks so good! You've got a little jam on you. I can't wait for the balloon battle. There's more to the Holi Festival than the balloon battle, Dimple. Really? Like what? I'll tell you all about it. It's Holi, and that means that spring has just begun. With pretty colors all around, it's time to have some fun. Our clothes might start out clean, but that's not how it ends. Grab a balloon, your family and friends. as soon as the balloons are filled and Prince Neil gets here. I can help! Dimple, stop it! We have to save the water for the balloons. Mama!
Girls, what's going on?
Dimple's getting really impatient. Can you take her? I don't want to leave. I want to play.
Don't worry, Dimple. You'll still play. We'll just take a little walk. Get you another roti roll.
Yay!
Bye, Dimple.
Bye!
Hey, Mira, is that our bucket?
It sure is, Mina. How's the green team doing?
Almost ready for battle.
Neil!
Sorry I'm late. You wouldn't believe how long it takes to paint an elephant. Everyone, meet Anu, our new baby elephant.
Happy Holi!
Ready to start the balloon battle?
Yes! Let's do it!
Let's hear it for Mira, royal detective. Mira, 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 hey!
You can watch the full episode on DisneyNow.com. It's now time for another short break on Vision of Asia, the voice of the community. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Vision of Asia, South Asian News segment, and I am Aditi Lamba. In New York, the Asian American Federation recently unveiled its Hope Against Hate campaign, a landmark and progressive solution to respond to and stop attacks on vulnerable Asian New Yorkers. Since January of 2020, Asian New Yorkers have been scapegoated as a reason for COVID-19. In recent days, a string of violent attacks has left the Asian American community in fear for their and their family's safety and well-being. The Asian American Federation is seeking $30 million for Hope Against Hate campaign to establish a safety ambassador program, set up in-language victim support services, and provide self-defense training. This is all happening as anti-Asian hate and sentiments are at the highest it has been historically. On this and the plight of the Asian American community since the racially motivated shootings in Atlanta, we spoke with Ju Han, the Deputy Director of the Asian American Federation. Here's the conversation with Ms. Han. My first question to you is, for audience that may not know about the Asian American Federation, please give us a little insight into what the Federation is and all the programs the Federation has been doing for past so many years.
Sure. So we are an umbrella leadership organization that works to address the most urgent needs of the Pan-Asian community. And we do that through research, we do that through advocacy, and we do that through supporting our 70 Asian nonprofit members and special initiatives when we feel like there's a need but not enough services. So, for example, we have been focusing to work on increase access to mental health services for the Asian community that are culturally competent, small business support, which has been really important during COVID, and now the rise in anti-Asian violence in this past year.
Right, and just talking about this anti-Asian violence, I have a couple of questions for you. What has happened to the Asian American community across the country during this COVID-19 pandemic? I'd like to know what the Federation has seen and what has been reported to you all in terms of what's happening to the community.
We've been tracking this for over a year, but we've been working on this issue for about 15 months. We were hearing as early as December 2019 from our small business owners that people were not coming to their stores. We knew that this was right around the time where COVID was talked about in terms related to the Asian community, with the former president saying things like Chinese virus, Kung flu. And so that impact was immediate. And we knew that it was going to start to impact individuals. And we were working with city leaders to address it so that people could know where to report, figuring out safety resources. But we, through this past year, have between our reporting platform as well as the National Stop AAPI Hate, NYPD, and the Commission on Human Rights, we've counted close to or over 1,100 bias incidents, the majority of which have not been reported to the NYPD. So most of these are verbal assaults, but definitely in the past several months, we've seen a lot of violent assaults getting captured by the media and really targeting women, who have been the primary targets, and as well as elders.
Right, and right before I go to my next question about the recent shootings that happened, why do you think that the Asian American community is a target of constant racism and discrimination? This is not a new thing. This has been happening for years now.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for bringing up that historic perspective. I mean, for us in our community, we've always faced anti-Asian racism through policies that excluded us from immigrating here, from, policies that put us in internment camps with the Japanese community. We know that, Vincent Chin it was in the 80s that galvanized the Asian American community when a Chinese American was killed because white auto workers accused him of stealing jobs from them, thinking that he was Japanese. So, and it's recent under the former administration. We saw, Muslim ban. We post 9/11. Before that, Muslim community was targeted. So that discrimination against our community is definitely not new. And when you think about sort of all the anti-immigrant rhetoric and policies that were put forward in the former administration, and then on top of that, the stresses and anxieties of COVID, and anytime you have social and economic instability in the country, you know that the immigrants are going to be the first ones to feel that backlash. So I think it was thinking that some of us are easy targets, we don't speak English well, that we are constant foreigners. It was sort of a perfect storm for people to blame the Asian community because of that inaccurate correlation between the virus and our community.
Do you think the Asian American community right now, with what's all happening, and we'll discuss more on it, is scared and fearful for themselves?
Yeah, and that fear we're hearing about now, but trust me, in our community, when we've been talking with our 70 member and partner groups, people were feeling that fear and anxiety way early, like before we went into lockdown. But obviously with the coverage happening and the extreme violence that people have experienced, and you mentioned the Atlanta shootings, which was something that was really traumatizing and filled us with grief and anger. People are worried that there's danger around every corner. And it's not to say that's inaccurate, right? We know that there's been the U.S. in New York is the city that's had the most number of incidents in the U.S. And we also have the highest number of physical assaults, even though that's not the majority of incidents. So people do feel real fear. We're hearing that people are not going out. Seniors definitely are trying to limit their time outside. And even people in general have to try to change their habits so they're not going out, when they feel vulnerable. But it's not just during nighttime. Daytime assaults are happening. People who are frontline workers, essential workers, immigrant delivery workers, they don't have the option to stay home. So that fear is pervasive in our community. And people are worried that they're not actually getting access to safety resources. So that's the work that we've been doing through our Hope Against Hate campaign that we just launched a week ago to talk about how we can provide immediate safety to Asian New Yorkers.
While this wraps up our show for the night, please send us your suggestions and get your voices and organizations in our show. Email us on events@itvgold.com or follow us on Facebook @itvgold. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel for free access to many of our popular shows. Thank you for joining us tonight from Queens, New York. This is Vision of Asia, and I am Aditi Lamba. Take care and be well.